Bretagne because some cows got sick and had to be culled en masse. You just can't write some of this stuff. Super sad for the cows, probably their worst day, and that's devastating. You never want to see that, but also super sad for any Tour de France fanatics because I think we got a poorer stage as a result. Nonetheless, there were some things to keep your interest. But the first thing out of the gate, the sprint finish was not one of them. Milan basically walked across the sprint line here with Biniam Gamai in second, and he almost didn't even look like he contested that. And for some reason, Abrahamsen coming in third. So at the moment, the green jersey, especially with what happens later in this stage, it looks like the green jersey is essentially just a procession now. I think Milan has that one locked up. The breakaway goes away, and it looks like there's a bit of frustration within there. Amarai looks like he's got the shits with Rubio at one point because they're not really working effectively. The group ends up splitting. Martinez, Roglic, and Paré-Pierre go away from the break, going up the climb. And this secures Martinez's KOM. Sorry, it doesn't secure it. He takes the virtual second place in the KOM past Jonas. There's a second group which features Campenaerts, Foss, and Amarai and Rubio. Primoz, at this point, looks like he's going for the podium, and it is interesting to see that Lipowitz is nowhere to be seen. He seems to be back with the yellow jersey group. The break gets brought back, or half the break gets brought back, coming into the Rosalind, and then, Paré-Pierre drops the hammer going up the Rosalind. Martinez gets dropped. Roglic holds on the descent. Roglic gaps everyone and continues to keep going. And there was the hope that Roglic could maybe get the stage win here and looked like he was pushing for a podium spot. However, he just didn't ever get the gap that he needed. It sort of hovered at around really sort of 30 seconds. So then Wellens starts putting in the work for Pogacar. And from this point, it becomes really clear that Poggy wants this stage win. And that is what UAE are racing for. And Poggy from here on and UAE essentially take the initiative, bar a slight moment where Felix Gall and his AG Tour Decathlon team take over the pacemaking, but it's mostly UAE. And Poggy and Jonas go off the front and start playing silly buggers, which is the point that Arensman hits and just goes, and he never comes back. Arensman rides away to score the stage win in what ends up being an absolutely nail-biting stage win, only because I think he wins by 9 seconds at the end. But aside from that, an absolutely wet, not in the fact that it was raining, which it also was, but just wet as in like damp and boring sort of Poggy on the front, just riding, Vingegaard marking him, not doing anything really. It just, if it didn't have Arensman, it was a pretty average stage, but it did. And as a result, it was a fantastic one where you're just cheering for this guy. He looked like he was really struggling. Both him and Martinez look like when they're really struggling, they've got a leaf blower in their face and mouth is like proper pulled back. So, anyway, awesome to see Arensman go. And considering at the start of the tour, we were really playing Where's Ineos? Good to see them back in their winning ways. Certainly not the Tour de France that they wanted, but I think they definitely walk away from this pretty happy with how things have gone. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you've covered everything there. There wasn't much to cover because we just didn't see that many things get a chance to play out because it was so fast from start to finish. Basically, only 3 climbers were good enough to ride away from the peloton by any distance on that first climb, which was Roglic, Parapantra, and Martinez. And then 2 of those guys came back pretty quickly on the descent because they couldn't hold on to Roglic on that descent. And then Roglic was mowed down by Tim Wellens, who had another killer ride for UAE. But yeah, the time in Arensman really saving Ineos's tour with the 2 stage wins, because apart from him, haven't seen much from anyone else. Now, they did lose Ganna on stage 1, who would have been a really good chance for at least 1 stage win in the TT and probably some breakaway hunting as well. We've seen Geraint Thomas have a few goes in breakaways or even on the sprint stage a few days ago trying to make something happen. But in terms of actually having any influence on the race, really just Arensman here. And this guy clearly knows how to hurt himself, because today had to go super deep all the way up that final climb. I just thought when he was away, even with 7-8 Ks to go, that he was just going too deep and he was going to get mown down. And yeah, the big question, I guess, is whether the 2 main guys actually wanted to mow him down, in that they were with him at the point that he attacked. And he it's not as if he attacked once and rolled off the front. For a while there, they were pretty happy to chase him. And to me, it just looks like he was the 3rd sibling, the annoying younger one that just wanted to play, and then the other 2 entertained him for a little bit and then got sick of playing with him and just went back to the others, and he was just ran off by himself. But yeah, it was a really interesting one, because the commentators were saying that everyone at home's watching, waiting for these 2 big names, Tadej and Jonas, to light it up, and they just waited until 200 meters to go and they weren't able to close the gap because he just had enough time. So the one thing I noticed was that the 3rd or 4th attack, when Arensman got the gap, Jonas rode up next to Tadej and said something, and Tadej said something back. I would love to know what was said then. I hope the interviewers pick up on it and ask them after, because to me, looking at it, it's just almost as if Jonas rode up and said, let's just let him win. He deserves it. And Tadej said yes from looking at it. Now, these guys have been going toe-to-toe for 3 weeks now. They are probably pretty buggered, so I don't know if they could do it at the end, but it was a weird one to watch in that it didn't look like they were too interested in those last few kilometres.
I really got the vibe at that point on the climb that it was a Jonas coming up and saying, I've snuck some schnapps into my bidon. Do you want to just cruise up here? They looked like they were on a coffee ride for that, pretty much that whole climb. I reckon they were both doing zone 2 for significant portions of that climb. They were riding next to each other. They were eating the whole way up. It just, yeah. The interesting thing, so one of the things to take away at the end, and I wonder how much, for a stage where it really looked like Poggy was hunting the stage win, like it is so bizarre that Wellens was really driving to bring back Roglic for Poggy to come 3rd. And that's my big takeaway from this, was for the first time this entire tour, we've seen Vingegaard actually outsprint Roglic for the line. Now, sorry, not Roglic, Pogacar. So there has been a lot made in the media of comments that Pogacar said, I think after yesterday's stage, about the fact that he's just over the Tour de France and he just wants to go home. I don't know how much to make of that, but it certainly does look like he's not enjoyed this Tour de France as much as I think he's enjoyed other ones. There was an incident with a spectator yesterday where he seemed to get quite annoyed at one of them. Today, he got sort of shoulder checked. I don't know if you saw it when he was coming across the line. The security guard that was
there's been a lot of good shoulder checks at the finish lines this year, and this one he picked the wrong guy to shoulder check because that was the yellow jersey of the race. No, he does look a little bit pissed off, but he has also in previous years, and even at the end of the Classics campaign, it's the same. I think it's just he comes across that way in interviews because the interviewers are trying to almost poke holes in his fun, happy facade. Well, it's not a facade, I think, from the interactions I've had with the bloke. He is actually just a fun, happy bloke. And the interviewers are, in a way, doing their job of trying to create those little bites that they can use saying, oh, look how cooked he is. He's really unhappy. He doesn't want to be here anymore, because that generates clicks, because we've seen so much of him throughout saying, yeah, I'm having good fun. I just want to go out there and smash it again. I'm going to send it up all these climbs. We've seen that all day, every day. So the stuff that people want to see, and I personally don't like seeing it, but the things that people will click on in social media and in the media is just when he says he's cooked or tired or wants to go home, and the headline is Tadej Pogacar wants to go home. He's had enough of the Tour de France, and then everyone can jump on and say, oh, well, you're getting paid enough and you should be happy winning the greatest race in the world. I think he's probably enjoying it more than it seems in those interviews, because in those interviews, he is just sick of the interviews more than the race itself.
Yeah. So we've got Caitlin in here. Tadej Pogacar did look a bit tired. I don't know whether he looked tired. He just seemed disinterested. I don't know whether, like you said, maybe he and Vingegaard did just call an armistice and sort of say, let's just go 1-2 on this. That doesn't seem true to the nature of the Tadej Pogacar that we have seen for the rest of this. So maybe, they are at the point where they're just pretty tired. The whole thing is sewn up. But you would have expected Vingegaard to want to come away with at least the stage win as well. And that's what
that was the funny one for me as well. He hasn't had a stage win this tour, and Visma Leasebike have had the one stage win with Simon Yates, which was because he snuck into a break that he was probably there as a satellite rider for, and then didn't have to do a turn the whole day and won at the end. Obviously, he's a crazy good rider, and he's probably the best in that break anyway. But just the one stage win for them and second on GC would not be a pass for this tour. I can't see why he wouldn't be pushing harder for that stage win. And the thing I really hope is that the reason for Pogacar not going for the stage win is this narrative that we see that he's being too greedy and winning everything and he should share it around. Because for me, that's ridiculous as someone in the sport who has never won anything at the same level whatsoever and never has the choice to win a race. I still see someone like him, and I don't think he should have to share races with the guys that wouldn't win otherwise if he wasn't prepared to give them the win. And the other thing with it is he's not just racing for himself for these stage wins. He has 4 this tour, could have been 5 today if it had played out a bit differently in the end. But he's racing for everyone that's helping him throughout the year. He's racing for his girlfriend at home, his parents. He's racing for Slovenia as a country because they all want to see him succeed as well. So while he can be generous in a way to provide a stage win to one other rider, he can also, it's not just him, he's racing for all these other people. And then the other thing is he's got maybe, like he's not old when he stretched 26, but he's got maybe 8 years left at this level, and not all of those might be in the position where he can win stages of the Tour de France. So it's a short-lived career. It's not like he's going to be doing this until he's 60. Like, make the most of it while you've got it. So I really hope that he just genuinely didn't have the legs today, and it wasn't I'm going to give it to someone else because I don't want to be greedy.
Totally. And I've never been in a peloton like that, and it doesn't seem like you've been on the winning streaks that he's been on. So I don't think either of us know, I guess, what it's like to be in that position. You know, I don't know the kind of pressure that comes from the peloton there, but at the same time, at risk of sounding insensitive, like, get good. In what other sport would you have a conversation where it's like, oh, this guy's so dominant, maybe you should let someone else win? Like, I remember there was a phase of dominance in the EPL where Manchester City was just taking everything, and no one was saying, oh, it'd be really nice if Manchester City would just go easy on Brighton Hove Albion. It was everyone else needs to elevate to that position. Similar in the cricket, you know, Australia is playing the West Indies at the moment, and no one wants Australia to go easy on the West Indies. We want the West Indies to elevate to that position. It's just a bizarre thing to come up, and it's only because I think there's this dominance of Pogacar across every form. Like, he's winning classics, he's winning Tour de France stages, and he just seems to be winning them for fun. And I guess it is putting pressure on some of these smaller teams that are going for these stage wins. But yeah, I mean, figure it out, I guess.
Yeah, it's a tough one because for the sport as a whole, it's not good that one rider is winning so much in that it means that these smaller teams start to suffer. Arkea is going under. We've heard of the merger of Lotto and Intermarché, both who aren't going to be helped whatsoever by this Tour de France, by the way. But the fact that they're not able to contest the stage wins that often because they're not being shared around. Like even today, we've got a guy that's already won a stage. So I guess that's part of where people are coming from, in that for the sport it's better. But like you said, for other sports as well, it would be like, we don't see, even within our sport, if you had the same sprinter winning 8 sprint stages, I think it would still be worth watching, and you wouldn't get people saying, I should have just freewheeled that last 10 meters to see someone else do it. So I think, it is sport. You want to see every person giving it their all, and as fans as well, you want to just see everyone contesting it all the way to the line.
Yeah, and Caitlin's in the comments again saying, it's the position of cycling. It comes down to the viability, financial viability overall. I think that comes down to organisations like the UCI figuring out a better funding model for these teams, or a way to generate revenue out of cycling outside of that, and then pass that on to the team, so that they're not so reliant on sponsors that historically, as we have seen, can be quite flaky. Again, it is a tough business model, because for the most part, entrance to cycling races is free, and that's tough. But there are other ways that you could look at generating revenue, and it would be good to see them being creative with that. And instead, it seems like anytime someone comes up with an idea about how to do something differently, it feels a bit like my local cycling club, where the answer is, well, this is the way we've always done it. The problem's not us. The problem is them. So
and we've seen One Cycling coming up, and the UCI in the last week has said that anyone that works with them in any way whatsoever, whether it's racing or management or even just talking, will be banned from UCI racing. So we've seen it in other sports when there's other challenges. I think it will be good for the sport as a whole if One Cycling at least puts some pressure on the UCI to keep riders by sharing. The UCI doesn't make absolute bank. Like, they hand out a few fines to Lenny Martinez for holding a sticky bottle, but the UCI isn't the ones that make the big money out of the Tour de France. It's the ASO, and they just hoard that wealth like nothing else. None of that goes out to the teams like you would see in other sports. So that's probably where the reform needs to happen. And in this instance, we love raging against the UCI, but the ASO are actually the bad guys in terms of the funding model of the biggest race in the world. But they hold all the cards in. It's really hard to do anything against that. And even the UCI, well and truly, they've got the UCI wrapped around their little finger, because they have all the money and the power. So it's not an easy fix, but other organizations coming in, being prepared to throw some money at it, is going to at least put pressure on the current organizations to go, okay, if we want to keep everyone on side, we probably have to give them a better deal and make sure that we're not going to lose these teams that aren't able to compete with the biggest teams.
And these are things have happened in the past. Rugby league here had the Super League split in New South Wales. We've recently seen it with Live Golf and the PGA, and that's ended up resolving itself, and now they seem to be working together. So, I think an element of competition, while it might breed a level of instability in the sport in the short term, I think will be good in the long term. And, I'm sort of hoping that One Cycling also kind of gets up. So another thing that we did see today was Oscar Onley, unfortunately, fading a bit towards the end. So that looks like our podium is now locked up, barring some unfortunate incident. So I think we can pretty much go ahead here and say that our Tour de France podium is Tadej Pogacar, number 1, which we've probably been able to call from week 1. Jonas Vingegaard, number 2, which again, we've probably been able to call from week 1. And then, it looks like we have Lipowitz, a German, on the podium. And also, despite Red Bull's best efforts in this, on the podium and also in white, how did you feel about Red Bull's tactics today?
It just seemed like Primoz doing Primoz things and what he wanted to do. I loved it, to be honest, because they haven't got a stage win. And
Yeah.
like for Roglic, he slid down to 8th now and lost a lot of time on that final climb. But for him, the difference between 5th and 8th, he said it right at the start of the tour, and he rode like it today. It's not going to change his life at all. So he doesn't care between 5th and 8th. It's still the top 10. Yeah, the team has a few difference in UCI points, but they're also not going to be too fussed about that. He's just going for the stage win. Also, it was cool to just see him throw everything at it and not just roll through this tour without being noticed. Like, he's actually had a crack, which has been good to see, when he could have just rolled through for a 4th place. But he was looking like he was a chance to get on the podium there, even at one stage, if UAE were prepared to let that go out, which they clearly weren't. Which, it would have been a nice romantic story to see him finish on the podium again. And honestly, for Red Bull, they're going to be happy with Lipowitz being on the podium. Also, the fact that he's so new to the sport, so new to this level, like, he's going to only get better and better the more he's in that situation. But I think the biggest win for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe is Primoz Roglic getting through 19 stages, fingers crossed for the rest, without hitting the deck and still being in the race. That is very impressive.
On that descent down Rosalind, he was looking really sketchy, wasn't he? I was just waiting for it. I had the reel scripted out and everything. I thought for sure he's coming off here, and it's the poor guy. He looked like he was so uncomfortable. But yeah, look, I think there has been news. This keeps coming up, but it looks like it's more certain than ever that Remco Evenepoel is also going to Red Bull.
Which will be not good news for Florian Lipowitz. But at the same time, he will be able to learn a lot from someone like Remco, who, has a lot to provide in terms of even just like Lipowitz. The TT is his big weakness. Having someone like Remco on the team is going to help for that. And then, if it does go ahead, the two-pronged attack has worked for riders in the past, and we've seen multiple times in the last 10 years in Tour de France that the plan B rider has actually ended up winning the race. So it's not all bad news. And for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, it kind of makes sense, because they, as a team with the budget that they have since Red Bull's come on, they need to be contesting for the win at this Tour de France. It's good to see that they've always been up there every stage for the podium, but they were at no point looking like they were going to contest for the win this year. So they'll be looking to improve on that. And for their sake, they'll want Remco on board.
Yeah. And I think for cycling fans, the most exciting thing to come out of this Tour de France is, I think, threefold, potentially fourfold. And that is Lipowitz and Onley. And also on top of that, the rise of riders like Vakelen, who looks like he's going to Ineos, I think was what the SBS commentators were saying. He's linked to Ineos after this. So he will be in the same team as Arensman. And those guys, I think, especially in this last week, have been the real narratives that have been exciting me, having a look at what next year's Tour de France is going to look like. Seeing Onley go toe-to-toe with the two best Grand Tour riders in the world yesterday. And then again, granted, I don't think that they were putting out their best What's Up the climb today, but Lipowitz going on the front and riding for them. Such a breakout season for some of these guys, and that's really exciting. You know, you're literally watching the future riding into their positions this tour.
Yeah, and another name that it's not his first season on the big scene, but the big one for me, and I noticed it today, just how good Ben Healy has been in these high mountains. He's been a rider that's been around about in the Ardennes Classics, had some big wins in the last few years in Giro and Tour stage wins now with the long breakaways, and he's always been a breakaway specialist. But now to be GC in which place has he got himself? So he's 9th place. Looks like he'll stay there. Yeah. So
and O'Connor in 10th then, is it?
Yeah, O'Connor in 10th. So it looks like the top 10 in theory tomorrow should stay the same. So from the big movers today were Felix Gall up to 5th, Tobias Holland Johannesson up to 6th past Kevin Verkelen. So that's great for Uno X mobility, especially from a points perspective for them. And then Roglic down to 8th, Ben Healy held on to 9th, and Ben O'Connor in 10th. But yeah, Ben Healy for me, he's always been a bloody good rider, but to now be 9th in the Tour de France, holding the yellow jersey for a day, taking a stage win, and just consistently holding on to these guys in the high mountains when there's only 8, 9, 10 riders left is a massive step up for him. So I think he's just basically tripled his contract value for whatever his next contract is in this Tour de France.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got, I think this is Alison Wopey, is asking about stuff that you said earlier about Poggy maybe suffering some effects of his crash, and wondering whether that's why he is not going out as hard. I think the reason why he's not going out as hard, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Cyrus, we're used to seeing him in, like, the last couple of races that we've seen him in are all one-day races. We saw him in the Worlds going out on a long-range attack, but that's a one-day race. We've seen him in the Classics going out on longer-range attacks. That's in the Classics. They're all one-day races. I think that's where the equation's different. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I would say that, and he's just got more to lose in this situation with the GC battle. But it is a good point in that it's easy to forget how much skin he lost, and he's still wearing his sleeve covering all that skin loss, and that, yeah, as I said a few episodes ago, doesn't heal that well throughout the tour. Also just affects your sleep. So if there's actually any reason why he's a bit cranky, it's probably just getting rubbish sleep, still changing his bandages 2 or 3 times a day because it's either hot or wet every day at the moment. So yeah, that kind of stuff's just more of a pain in the ass than anything else. It's clearly not affecting his riding, and I think I expected it to affect his riding more. But yeah, just that's possibly that. I don't think it would change the way he's riding, more just his general mentality at this point in the tour. Is he's probably a bit over it from that as well.
Yeah. I think probably time to move on then to our Domestique of the Day segment. Did you have one that you identified there?
He's won it a few times already, but Tim Wellens for me, again, just climbing out of his skin. There's not many guys left. I think there's about 20 guys left in the GC group after the first climb, and then he ripped it down the descent and then all the way down the valley to ruin Roglic's day and make sure that Pogacar did have a chance for the stage win. And this is the kind of thing that why I'm saying that Pogacar shouldn't be gifting wins, because like Wellens has just ripped it on the front for 50k of the race, almost in a 90k race if you take in the first climb. So, and I don't know that he did gift the win or give it to anyone else, but they're the kind of reasons why, like, he's not just racing for himself. It's for guys like Wellens who the whole tour have been ripping it on the front for him and want to see him do well.
Yeah, it's what makes it galling. And guys like Wellens, I know teams split prize money. Wellens would be taking multiple stages in a Tour de France if he was riding for any other team. So I'm sure he's getting paid a tidy paycheck at UAE, but he's sacrificing the opportunity to go for wins to grind away for Poggy on days like today. And yeah, again, that's just what makes it so galling that there wasn't that intent today. But yeah, maybe it was just that it's the last mountain stage, and maybe Vingegaard did come up and say, mate, I can't beat you. So let's just take this one a bit easier than we have been. I don't know. I agree with you. I couldn't find anyone else other than Wellens. Simmons, again, was being a fantastic domestique. He's been really good all race. But yeah, no one really stood out as much as Wellens did. I think he did a great job again. My dickhead for the day is Primož Roglic. I don't think he necessarily deserves it, but I'm calling my dickhead for the day as Primož Roglic. Just going out so hard and then completely fading back. But yeah, again, just a day where there wasn't really anyone, I think. I mean, you could potentially give it to Tadej for having his team go so hard into the
Yeah, I guess he was the only one actually also in that chase group that was prepared to sit on the front and try and bring it back until Onley
Mm,
cracked, and then it was Lipowitz. But that wasn't so much for the stage win, but for that. But yeah, for as much as we're saying Pogacar should have tried, no one else was trying either. And
that's true.
whether they could close it is a different story, and whether Pogacar could close it is we don't know that because we don't know if he pushed to his limit. I didn't have one for today, so I'm going to use this one to play a Uno reverse on my conditional dickhead of the day from last week, where I did say if Remco is not sick or injured, then he should have finished. We got a statement from him, which he left us in the dark for a while there. But he started the tour with a broken rib, which I'm sure everyone has seen on social media right now, which is honestly pretty phenomenal that he got as far as he did, and also that he kept it under wraps and that the media didn't get hold of that. And then also when he pulled out of the tour, developed sinusitis over the next few days. So by my definitions, that would include serious illness or injury that is worthy of leaving the Tour de France. So definitely the right call made there to pull out, and we hope that Remco gets better soon.
Yeah, I think maybe it's probably appropriate at this time to say, sorry, Remco. It seems like a lot of riders are listening to this because everyone keeps going for the Lazarus Award and the dickhead of the day. So speaking of the Ineos, I think we need to also reevaluate the Ineos. The Visma Lisa bike driver yesterday could also potentially be our dickhead of the day for his brake
Yeah.
check on Tadej Pogacar. But
Yeah, we've been blaming from what I've heard, blaming the auto brakes on those cars with the sensors, which I've seen that happen in races before. So hope that was the case.
yeah, but yeah, look, we did come out pretty hard against Remco, and it seems like, hey, we were wrong on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, when we didn't have the info, it didn't look as good for him. But yeah, I think we jumped to a conclusion there. And for anyone that we did upset about that, which it did seem that some people were genuinely upset about us having a crack at him, we were wrong. And
Yep.
we apologise for that.
Well and truly justified for leaving the tour at that point, Remco.
Yeah, fair crack. And yes, absolutely. Hope he gets better. My Lazarus for today was Arensman. There were a few times where he looked like he was going to crack and drop off the back, and then somehow he managed to attack the group and go off and win the stage. So I think if anyone deserves a Lazarus award, it is Timon Arensman. Did you notice anyone else?
Yeah, mine was just earlier in the stage, Parry Pantra for suffering so much on that first climb. He was doing a proper yo-yo to try and hold on to Roglic and Martinez. And I just thought, why is he going this deep? Because there's still a massive climb to go. He's got no chance of doing anything in the final because he has blown his lights on this first climb. And then he still came through for a very respectable ninth place. Yeah, he's got form, but we saw him win on Vontour a few days ago. But good to see him giving it everything on the last stage that he can have a crack at as well.
Also, someone who I think wouldn't have wanted to, but has benefited from the fact that Remco did step away. He's had an opportunity to go for his own victories here, and yeah, I think he's had a really impressive Tour de France for someone who came as Remco's climbing Domestique. So yeah, really cool. And also, no one looks more like a zombie on the bike, do they? Like he just looks like he's going through the 7 layers of hell.
I just have to hope. I just keep watching and hoping that he doesn't fall off, because he would snap 17 bones in one hit. There is just no protection for those bones there. But like, he stayed on his bike.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, that kind of. Do you have anything else that you'd like to?
No, that's all. We'll do. I guess we'll go to the probably what looks to be the race more people are starting to talk about now for tomorrow, even though it will be on straight after the Tour de France stage. The Tour de France men's stage will be the start of the Tour de France Femmes. So do you have anything that you want to run through about this? Because I've got a few thoughts on what might happen throughout the week.
I do not. The only thing that I wanted to raise, I've recently done an interview with Amanda Spratt for the Domestique, different podcast, but on the Domestique platform, which is the Hot Seat. She's had to pull out today, literally the day before the Tour de France starts. So our hearts go out to Amanda and the Little Trek team. That is a huge loss for their climbing strength in the Tour. And yeah, just a real shame for her. So yeah, hopefully she can recover and that she comes good. I won't get to watch this one because I can't stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever ungodly time it's going to be by the time this is finished. So yeah, did you want to run through your thoughts?
Yeah, well, we have said a few times that the reason that we love watching cycling a lot of the time is the stories, and we've got some really cool stories that'll be coming in this Tour de France. So it's really just Demi Vollering just looking for revenge is what is going to be the biggest story, I think. So on her old team who left her for dead on the roadside early in the last year's tour, and she just never regained that time gap that she lost to Cassia Niewedoma. And she'll be looking for revenge on her old team. She'll be looking to beat Cassia. Yeah, there's a lot of stories there. Not only her old team, but her last year's DS, and basically the woman that ran the team, Anna van der Breggen, is racing for her old team, and she'll probably be their GC rider. But that's the big story of the tour. But also we've just had the women's Giro, so that's our only form guide, but a lot of the girls skip that to be at altitude. And for those women, they've been away from racing for quite a while, so there's not so much form to go off to know who's going to be the best. But yeah, in terms of GC favourites, and we can't run through too deep because otherwise we'll need a whole new podcast, but Demi Vollering, I'd say, would be the favourite. We've got the defending champ, Cassia Niewedoma, who just hasn't shown the same form this year as she had last year, so it's going to be really hard for her to back up and contend, but then maybe she will be able to pull it out because she knows she's done it before. And then with Team SD Works, again, Lotte Kopecky hasn't shown the climbing form she showed last year, but again, it's the Tour de France. She's put in the work, I imagine, for a race this big, and Anna van der Breggen on that team. So they will be the big ones. Then Marlon Reuser, who has showed really good climbing form this year, and she is riding for the Movistar team. And Elisa Longo Borghini for UAE Team ADQ. So they would be the big GC favourites. The thing that I love about watching the Femme is that you get a lot more out of them in the interviews. So it makes a lot better following of the stories because they're pretty happy to have a crack at each other after the race, largely, which is great for us watching at home because we will get a few spicy takes, I'm sure, throughout the tour.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Vollering didn't hold back when Poggy crashed and the peloton waited for him. She made some pretty pointed comments about the fact that it's nice to see that the men are better sportsmen than the women are. So she's not let that go. It'll be interesting to see how she goes in her new team. One thing that I'm always interested in when these things come up is, Vollering has the bully pulpit. She is the best rider in the world. She is the one that SD Works isn't going to come out and slam one of their riders. They stayed pretty quiet on it for the most part, and it was Vollering that was really controlling the narrative there. It would be interesting to see how she's going on FDJ and sort of suss out whether is it Vollering that was creating that tension, or is it her team that was creating the tension? Was it SD Works? And that's really what I'm interested to see. How do SD Works go as a team without her, and how does Vollering go on this new team? Because so far, I don't think Vollering has looked as lethal this year as she has in the past.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'm not sure how much that's on her or how much is the general level of the women's peloton just growing so much in the last few years. In the past, there was her, Annemiek van Vleuten, Anna van der Breggen, that you could count the riders on one hand that were going to contest for the win, and then maybe another 15 or 20 there in the last hour of the race when it was going on. Now it's most of the peloton still there, getting amongst it at the end, and a lot more opportunities for stage hunters and people contesting the GC. So Yeah, it does set up for a really exciting tour, and just the unknown of who's going to come in the best form is probably what makes it the most exciting, as opposed to the men's where we knew who was the favourite coming in, and it has essentially played out how you would have predicted.
It is way more open. It is a shorter tour as well, which means that there is more opportunities for things to happen. However, it starts off pretty boring. So we've got a pretty flat stage for stage one, which I think you can just pencil in weavers. We've got a flat stage again for stage two, which again, I think you can probably pencil in weavers. This is one of the difficult things about the Femmes. I think the sprinter is pretty dominant. Then for stage three, from what I can see, is again what appears to be a very flat stage. So again, I think you can probably pencil in weavers, and stage four is also very flat. So really, stage five is where it's going to start lighting up. This is where you start getting some mountains, and then it's really back ended this tour, which it does tend to be. Stage six, I just wet my pants having a look at the profile of stage six. Stage seven is pretty nasty on the back end, and then stage eight is the classic one. They always end their Tour de France with a really steep one, and this one is up Col de la Madeleine, which is a climb that we are very familiar with.
Yeah, and if there's anyone complaining in the men's peloton about having a difficult finish stage on Sunday, then we can just point them directly to the Tour de France Femmes and ask them if they'd prefer to do that stage to finish off the tour.
Yeah, there is no procession. They're not here to fuck spiders. Yeah, that's a pretty rough stage to end with. Yeah, it's interesting, the selection. It's not particularly interesting at the start of this. I don't want to push people away from it. And there are some people that are very interested in sprint stages. But if you are someone that is interested in the mountains, then it's definitely the last 3-4 stages that are probably going to be of interest to you. Caitlin saying that Puck is going for yellow. It'll be interesting because they've definitely got Royackers penciled in as their number one rider. So, yeah, the rider that I'm most excited to see is Marlon Reusser. I'm really interested to see how she has had some fantastic form and has looked very, very strong. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting how she pulls up from the Giro and whether she gets team support there. But that's also one of the more exciting things about watching the Femme is that it tends to be more isolated from further out with not so much team support and just woman on woman racing, which is, yeah, arguably more exciting than seeing a mountain train controlling for most of the stage. So that will be good to watch. Looking forward to doing that. And at least I'm in the right time zone. I assume you'll be catching up on sleep for the first few stages and catching the highlights in the morning.
yeah, well, the good thing is I can sort of wake up, I guess, and watch the end of this, whereas you can't do that so much with the men's one, but I think they'll probably move it into the time slot that the men's tour is. So, yeah, it's probably going to be highlights for me, which sucks because I do want to give the women as much as I do the men, but this is going to be a bit of a burn. Puck is also one of my favourites, Caitlin. I think she's a legend. I just wanted to throw in one more before we go. One of my mates, Emily Watts, is racing her first Tour de France avec Femme avec Zwift, and she is also Australia's first First Nations rider to race in the Tour de France. So that is huge for her. That's a really exciting thing for her, and yeah, I think it's awesome to see some First Nations athletes getting into the pro peloton.
Yeah, definitely. And I was happy to see it on SBS already during today's stage, them pumping it up. And hopefully that is made a story of on all other media outlets just to try and encourage our First Nations people to get on bikes and get racing, because there is a hell of a lot of talent there. We've seen it in every other sport that we watch and love. So it would be cool to see it come into cycling.
Yeah, absolutely. But with that, a quick rundown, I guess, because, at the end of the day, this is the Men's Tour de France podcast. We should go through what stage 20 of the Tour de France 2025 looks like. So
I've got it up
it's a
here.
lumpy one.
I've got it up here. I can run through it.
Yeah.
So we've got 184 kilometers from Nantua to Pontarlier. So the Doubs region, we're right on the Swiss border before the riders will fly, I imagine, to Paris straight after this. And the poor drivers will be doing a long drive through the night to get there in time. But it's by no means an easy stage, and it's not one that the sprinters will be able to have a go at because these are hard roads, and you've raced around here quite a bit, and the Frenchies love racing full gas up all of these climbs. And I think tomorrow the fight for the breakaway will mean that it is no different. It's just perfectly earmarked as a breakaway stage, up and down all day, twisty roads, hard to control in the peloton. So I was saying how hard it is to pick riders from the breakaway. I've waited until 45 minutes into the podcast to say that I did pick today's winner. I don't know if I'll have the same success tomorrow. But it's going to be a breakaway winner. I'm going to go with one of my tips from earlier on as a decent chance, which was Fred Wright. He's always up and about on these kind of days. Haven't seen too much of him in the last few days, so I'm hoping he's saving it. If he isn't saving it and he's actually just cooked, then Smokey is Victor Campenaerts because he has looked incredible this last week, and I think he might be let off the leash to sneak up the road. And if he can get over these climbs like he looks like he has been, then he's probably a good shot for this as well.
He's been looking like a climber this week, hasn't he? He's been doing really well. I think they're both really good picks. I'm going to back Quinn Simmons again because I think he's due one, and I think this stage really suits him as well. And he's going to be off domestique duties because Milani's not making over that first Cat 3 climb with the breakaway anyway.
Yep. I think he's another good pick, and he's looked super good the whole tour.
And he's been taking it easy the last couple of days for the most part. So, yeah.
Yep, agree. Right. Well, I think we can wrap it up there then. As we've said, each episode, jump across to the Domestique page, check out all the stuff they're putting out. We'll get some good analysis of today's stage because Timon Arensman usually puts his numbers up on Strava. So I expect to see some scary numbers coming out from Dieter Loose's analysis of that stage. And jump on board the Femme train tomorrow because we will be able to watch 2 races for the price of 1 from tomorrow and Sunday.
It's not bad. And there is a lot of info coming out on the Domestiques. A lot of the rider contributors or the rider creators at Domestiques are female. I think there'll be some pretty incredible insights coming across the course of this race, including from Sarah Gigante. I don't know what she's going to be contributing while she's doing the Tour de France, but she is a contributor to the platform. So it'll be interesting to see what she puts in. But with that, I'm going to bed. It's a weekend, so hopefully I can sleep in tomorrow, but it's probably going to be the day that my kids wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and decide they're not going back to sleep. So I'm going to try and snag some while I can. Cyrus, it's been a pleasure. And Caitlin and I think it's Alison. Cheers, guys. Really appreciate you jumping in the chat. Just quickly before we go, just so that we can address some of these because people are sort of chucking them in. Just some very quick questions if you've got a couple of minutes, Cyrus.
Yeah, we'll rapid fire these ones out.
Yeah, let's bang them. Okay. So we've already addressed Sam Blaney's dickhead of the day going to the Visma car driver. What was the thinking behind Matteo and Jonas going full gas on the descent yesterday? We don't really know.
Just to put pressure on
Gap Poggy.
They're trying to do everything that they can, and Pogacar has crashed. Like, again, I said yesterday, there's very limited data points on Tadej Pogacar having bad days in the Tour de France. Crashing on a descent a few years ago was one of them, so they're doing everything that they can. Nothing worked.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that's exactly what they were trying to do. They were hoping he would crash, and it's not nice, but either that or that he backs off and they get a gap that they can then take advantage of. And then I think we've addressed Tyre Venters, Martinez, sticky bottle, cheating the polka dots with the camera right in front. But he definitely deserved the dickhead of the day yesterday because he was doing his sticky bottle. And yeah, the camera was literally right behind him.
Yeah, and that's on the DS as well because Martinez doesn't have mirrors and he doesn't know what bike is what. But the DS should probably look in his mirror and see a camera right there, or a commissaire motorbike or car right there as well. So yeah, to him and the DS, they were deserving of it yesterday.
Very embarrassing for him, and I think he really tried to make amends today by going right deep. And yeah, poor bloke looked like he was really suffering. But with that, that's our official sign off. And yeah, thanks everyone for putting the questions in. Just wanted to give them the time because we appreciate you. Have a good night,
Cool.
everyone.
Thanks,
or
guys.
a good day. And yeah, happy tour.
Cheers.